أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم. صدق الله العظيم.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning. On behalf of the Center for Strategic Perspectives at the Institute of Strategic Studies, Islamabad, it's my privilege to welcome you all to today's session on ECO, regionalism, and the new geopolitical dynamics. We are honored to have with us our guest speaker, Ambassador Asad Majid Khan, Secretary General of the Economic Cooperation Organization. His distinguished diplomatic career and rich experience in regional and global affairs will provide a valuable basis for today's discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, this session aims to reflect on the role of economic cooperation in promoting regional connectivity, economic integration, and resilience, particularly at the time when shifting geopolitical and geo-economic currents call for deeper cooperation among the ECO member states. We're grateful to the distinguished members of the diplomatic community, representative of ECO member states, scholars, and policy practitioners who have joined us today. Your presence underlines the importance of collective dialogue in advancing shared prosperity and stability in our region. To formally open the proceedings, I now request Ambassador Sohail Mahmood, Director General ISSI, for his welcome remarks. Ambassador Mahmood.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Dr. Neelam. Honorable Inamul Haq Saab, former Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Ambassador Dr. Asad Majid Khan, Secretary General, ECO, Ambassador Khalid Mahmood, Chairman, BOG, ISSI, Excellencies, distinguished guests, Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning. It is indeed a distinct pleasure to welcome everyone to the ISSI for our special event relating to the Economic Cooperation Organization, ECO. We are privileged to have Ambassador Dr. Asad Majid Khan, Secretary General of ECO, to speak about ECO, regionalism, and the new geopolitical dynamics. A former Foreign Secretary, Ambassador Asad Majid is a seasoned diplomat with vast experience and deep insights into regional dynamics. In today's global environment, marked by turbulence and transformation, geopolitics and regionalism are among the most widely discussed subjects. Within our own specific regional context, there could be no better speaker than Ambassador Asad Majid to talk about how ECO is navigating these complex processes that are both fraught with risks and offer unprecedented opportunities. It is propitious that the Secretary General has recently returned from participation in the 17th ECO Summit in Khan Kendi Azerbaijan on 3rd and 4th July 2025. He has already spoken publicly about what he witnessed in terms of regional unity and solidarity, a renewed sense of urgency and shared purpose, and a clearly articulated political will to forge deeper regional cooperation. This is indeed remarkable at a time when major power competition is accentuating, globalization and multilateralism are under severe stress, and notions like deglobalization and minilateralism are being actively advanced. Thankfully, regionalism is not challenged as much, but regional cooperation in some parts of the world, particularly in South Asia, remains a hostage to the vagaries of geopolitical tensions. If ECO can show that collective efforts translate into shared prosperity and a better future, it could have a good demonstration effect on South Asia as well. Distinguished participants, the Economic Cooperation Organization, a successor to the erstwhile RCD, began with a bold vision to unite Central, South, and West Asia into a shared community of opportunity, representing over 500 million people, vast natural and human resources, and critical connectivity. ECO has the potential to become a true nexus of trade, energy, and sustainable development. The ECO region's promise is reflected in its growing trade volumes. According to the organization's 2023 annual report, intra-regional trade rose to US $96.5 billion in 2022, an improvement from US $76 billion in 2021. Yet, this represents only 9.1% of the region's total trade with the world, a stark contrast with some integrated blocs such as the European Union, where intra-regional trade exceeds 70%. These numbers speak not to the ECO's inability, but to the immense opportunity that lies ahead and the urgency with which the member states must act. At their 17th summit, with the thematic focus on new ECO vision for a sustainable and climate-resilient future, the leaders reaffirmed their commitment to enhancing trade, building transport and digital corridors, expanding economic energy cooperation, and advancing climate resilience. The choice of Karabakh, once a center of conflict, as the venue also symbolized ECO's forward-looking spirit of transformation and hope. That notwithstanding, the ECO region faces pressing geopolitical challenges, including instability emanating from border disputes and conflicts, from terrorism and extremism, and from the influence and competing interests of external actors. Recent tensions and conflict between Pakistan and India underlined the factors that undermine regional stability and prospects for broader connectivity. Sanctions on some member states also hinder possibilities for optimal collaboration. The Israel-Iran conflict of 2025 has further disrupted vital energy routes and trade flows. There are other challenges too relating to economic development and connectivity, such as infrastructure gaps, trade barriers, diversifying economies, and external shocks, especially global economic downturns and climate change. Yet, there is also reason for cautious optimism. The US-mediated truce between Azerbaijan and Armenia offers a renewed sense of stability in the South Caucasus, with the potential to unlock new, safer corridors for commerce. In this complex environment, ECO stands at a crossroads. Cooperation is not a matter of choice, it is an imperative. From Pakistan's vantage point, ECO's potential is both a responsibility and an opportunity. Our geography bridges Central Asia with the Arabian Sea, enabling us to serve as a natural conduit for trade and transit. At the same time, our recent experience with devastating floods and climate-induced shocks underscores the urgency of building resilience into regional cooperation. Pakistan's investments in connectivity corridors, clean energy transitions, and disaster risk management provide a foundation for contributing to collective regional resilience. However, preparedness through institutional arrangements, while present, still requires significant strengthening. Regional investment and cooperation in these areas will not only enhance Pakistan's capacity but also generate shared benefits for all the ECO member states. Going forward, ECO's vitality will depend on turning vision into reality. For Pakistan, three interlinked pathways are critical. First, investing in resilient infrastructure will be essential to connect markets, people, and economies across the region. This is not only about roads and railways, but also about building the physical and institutional linkages that foster greater interdependence and trust. Second, deepening energy cooperation can ensure security for the region while also accelerating the transition to cleaner and more sustainable sources. By pooling resources, sharing technologies, and opening new corridors for energy exchange, ECO states can build collective resilience against volatility in global markets. And third, advancing digital connectivity is crucial to empower our youth and enable regional integration in the very architecture of innovation. Expanding digital corridors and investing in skills and technology will allow ECO countries to tap into the creativity and energy of younger generations, positioning the region to thrive in the global knowledge economy. Above all, ECO is about people. For tens of millions across the member states, it embodies hopes. Hope for more jobs, opportunities, and a better life. By making ECO work and thrive, we signal that even amidst uncertainty, cooperation remains the most powerful force for a shared future. Once again, I welcome everyone to the ISSI. We hope the Secretary General's discourse and today's discussion would deepen our understanding and commitment to ECO's transformative potential. I thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Mahmood. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest speaker today is Ambassador Dr. Asad Majid Khan, who is the current Secretary General of the Economic Cooperation Organization. Ambassador Khan has also served as Pakistan's 31st Foreign Secretary, where he advised the government on crucial matters of foreign policy and international relations. He has also held key bilateral and multilateral assignments, including as Pakistan's ambassador to the United States, European Union, Japan, and Belgium, in addition to senior leadership roles at the United Nations. Dr. Khan holds a doctorate in international economic and business law from Kyushu University, Japan. I now invite Ambassador Asad Majid Khan to kindly deliver his address.
Ambassador Inamul Haq Saab, Ambassador Khalid Mahmood Saab, Ambassador Sohail Mahmood, Excellencies, Dr. Kumail Tayyibi, President of ECO Science Foundation, my dear, very senior colleagues and friends from the past. I'm very happy to come here and share with you what I have learned over the past 1 year about this important institution, an institution that we help to create as a founding member, and an institution that we continue to contribute significantly, both in terms of finances and also in terms of ideas and actual delivery on the ground. In fact, having served around the world in different capacities, the first thing that I actually noticed on arrival in Tehran and after starting to work with ECO was to see the kind of overlaps, religious overlap, geographic overlap, cultural overlap, linguistic overlap. If we were to look around the globe, I really can't think of another organization and economic linkages, an organization that would have as many overlaps as ECO has. And also the fact that we are perhaps, and that's a challenge, I would say. And today I'll actually talk a lot about the organization and structure of this organization, because I often realize that that people don't really know about what ECO is, how it is structured, and there have been occasions where in the member states I've been asked where ECO is actually based. And that's a challenge. So I'd really like to, and as ECO, we also should know that as successor to, as Ambassador Sohail Mahmood rightly pointed out, we are successor to RCD, the Regional Cooperation for Development, which was the first and the oldest regional development organization in Asia. And if I were to list the global organizations, it was certainly one of the 4 oldest regional development organizations in the world. And it came about in July 1964. And July 64 and 1964 was also the year of, in some ways, the coming together of the Global South, and also the creation of the UN Conference on Trade and Development. So we really, I would say in Asia, the 3 countries, Turkey, Pakistan, and Iran, which were also part of the Central Treaty Organization. In fact, the primary motivation of these countries coming together was to not just focus and concentrate on the security side of cooperation, but also to expand and engage in development cooperation. And if we were to look at the first joint statement that the 3 heads of state put together, one will be really very surprised to see the level of ambition that they had set for themselves. The first thing was to create a joint planning committee of the 3 countries with the heads of the planning institutions of these 3 countries coming together to engage in joint planning. Then also to create basically central banks which will very closely coordinate with each other, even in terms of their monetary policy as well. And the common airline, joint maritime production, and there were 7 committees that were created through that joint statement. So if we look back and compare what we have actually done and achieved, even in terms of the ambition that RCD had set itself, I must say that ECO, frankly, has a long way to go. It was through the 1970 summit and 1976 summits, the 2 summits, which basically agreed on the charter of the organization, which was the Izmir Treaty. It was finalized through the 1976 summit and formally adopted and entered into force in 1977. Post-revolution in Iran, the organization, I would say, went into a kind of suspended state. Although the last Secretary General of RCD was also from Pakistan, actually, it was Mr. Mukhtar Masood. And then it was in 1985 that the organization was renamed from RCD to Economic Cooperation Organization. And this was then in the first revision of the Izmir Treaty in 1990. This change was reflected, which was further amended in 1992 to basically open the door for new members. And 7 new members were admitted to the organization, including the 5 Central Asian states and Azerbaijan from the Caucasus and Afghanistan. And that was then formalized in the 1995 summit here in Islamabad. This was the 3rd ECO summit that we hosted here in Islamabad. So today, as we speak, there are 10 members of ECO, the 3 founding members plus Afghanistan, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. In terms of the decision-making structure and the organs of the organization, obviously, what is interesting about ECO is that summit is not the decision-making body. The summit provides general guidance to the membership, obviously, since this is the gathering of the leaders of the region. But the decisions are actually made by the Council of Ministers. And so far, we have had 17 summits. So the idea is to have, in fact, during the first years, we had these summits every year, but then subsequently it was decided that we'll have biennial summits, while there were also occasions where we had gaps, whereas, and in terms of the frequency of summits, Turkey leads the hosting frequency. I would say they have so far hosted 4 summits, and one of those summits was a virtual summit. Whereas Azerbaijan also, which hosted the latest summit, has hosted 3 summits, while Pakistan has hosted 2 summits. And then that's another issue that I'll come back to once we talk more about other aspects of the organization. And the Council of Ministers meeting has been more frequent. We have had 28 Council of Ministers meetings, so it meets once every year. And then we have the Council of Permanent Representatives, which is based out of Tehran, and all the ambassadors of the ECO member states accredited to Tehran as ambassadors also act as permanent representatives for their countries. And the CPR meets every month. So we will, as I go back to Tehran, inshallah, and early next week, we will have 299th Council of Permanent Merit. So you can see that that frequency has been observed. But one of the key decision-making bodies, which in fact predates even the institution of the summit or the institution of the Council of Ministers meeting, is the Regional Planning Council. It was created as Regional Planning Committee. And that meets every year. And I must say that of the 35 years that we've been in existence in the expanded format, it has met 35 times. So we have not skipped even a single RPC meeting over the years. Now, we have a quite elaborate set of specialized agencies, regional institutes, and affiliated bodies. If I were to, there are 3 specialized agencies. One of them, ECO Science Foundation, is based out of Islamabad. The other is ECO Cultural Institute, which is based out of Tehran, and the last is the ECO Education Institute, which is based out of Ankara. And then these specialized agencies, they are autonomous, they have their own board of governors, they have their own rules, and they have their own decision-making systems. And they were created basically to coordinate with the Secretariat, with the ECO as an organization, to focus on those specialized areas. For instance, the Science Foundation to promote science collaboration amongst the ECO member states, Cultural Institute, and culture has always been a very important part of our activities in ECO, in fact. So that institute focuses on culture, and then the Education Institute in Ankara looks at promoting educational collaboration amongst the. But apart from that, I don't know how many of you are aware, here in Islamabad, we host one of the oldest ECO institutions, which is the ECO Postal College. It is a affiliated body. We also host another ECO institution here in Islamabad, which is the Parliamentary Assembly of ECO. And in fact, Pakistan hosts two other institutions, one in Karachi, which is still in the process of being set up, which is the ECO Reinsurance Company. And then in Lahore, there is also a ECO Engineering Company. So I'm just giving you these details that perhaps because many of you may not have heard about. And that in some ways, I would say, sums up the dilemma that we have actually stretched ourselves thin in terms of creating these institutions and infrastructures, but we have not done enough in terms of the members, all of the members subscribing to these institutions, all of the members contributing to these institutions, and all of the members supporting the activities of this. And one of the most important institutions is the ECO Development, Trade and Development Bank, which is and must be an indispensable and essential arm of any development organization. And ECO TDB is based out of Istanbul, and it is supposed to provide financial support to the ECO programs and projects. In terms of the administrative setup, Secretary General is the head of the organization. We are obviously an international intergovernmental organization with full diplomatic status and immunities, and we have a host agreement with Iran. And there are 4 DSGs, the Deputy Secretary Generals. 4 DSGs come, and they are all senior ambassador level representatives from their respective governments. Pakistan has had, I am the 3rd Secretary General from Pakistan. It was Ambassador Shamshad Ahmed, who was the 1st Secretary General. Then Ambassador Khurshid Anwar was the 2nd Secretary General. And I am, in ECO, the practice is that the so-called founding members will have a more frequent rotation. So every other Secretary General will be from the founding members, and therefore, and the rest would come from the members who have joined. But this issue is also in front of the Council, and there is now an in-principle decision also that this rotation will be reviewed at some important time. We have 6 directorates: trade and investment, transport and communications, energy, minerals and environment, tourism, human resources and sustainable development, and agriculture and industry. And then we have also 6 sections. There is a section that looks at judicial and parliamentary coordination, project management, international relations, administration and management, coordination and follow-up, and chef de cabinet to the Secretary General. Now, in terms of trade and investment, there are two framework agreements. One is the ECO trade agreement, and the other is the ECO agreement on protection and promotion of investment. Now, these are unfortunately, although we have had the ACOTA and the investment agreement in place, but both these agreements are still not operationalized. So that's also a challenge, and we can certainly discuss the reasons for, because trade obviously is what brought us together. Trade is what continues to be and should be the main area of interest, and there certainly are certain very important developments that have taken place in the context of a broader agreement on renegotiating the ECO trade agreement. And on this particular issue, we will, inshallah, have a final closure in the ministerial meeting of the commerce ministers in Turkey on 26th of November later this year. Now, in terms of trade, let me also say, Ambassador Sohail Mahmood spoke about ECO's contributions in terms of the promotion of inter-regional trade. There is no doubt that if we were to look at some of the other regional organizations, I would say that our total contribution share of ECO region in world trade is around $1.06 trillion in 2024, which is 4.4% of the global trade. And Turkey was the main contributor with a share of 57%, and Kazakhstan was second with 13.5%, and Pakistan was the third with 8.4%. And our inter-regional trade also grew by about it was 93 billion in 2024, and this was an 8.7% increase, annual increase from what it was in 2023. But I must also point out here that the share of Pakistan was recorded at only 3.8% of the intra-regional trade, which is actually, much lower than other member states of the region. But in terms of a comparison with the ECO standing at 8.4 in terms of intra-regional trade, European Union is around 70%, ASEAN is 25.7%, Eurasian Economic Union is 11.1%, and the Organization of Turkic States is 5.4%, whereas SAARC, South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, is just 4.9%, and BIMSTEC is 6.7%, whereas African Union is 16%. So if we were to look at the regional organizations in our immediate neighborhood, we would see that comparatively speaking, while we may not be close to the European Union or much less than ASEAN or African Union, but within the Eurasian Economic Union, Organization of Turkic States, ECO is doing much better. But once, if we were to compare with the years that we have been there, I would say that we really need to do better. In terms of trade orientation of the region, let me say that our total trade exposure of the entire ECO region to European Union, which is, and these are interesting numbers, is around $318 billion. And Turkey, Kazakhstan, and Azerbaijan are the main contributors to this trade volume. Whereas China, and this is where this shifting, I think, regional patterns can be seen. Now the collective exposure of the ECO region to China today is 177 billion US dollars. And we are running a deficit of around 93 billion as a region. And Kazakhstan, Turkey, and Pakistan, we are the three leading trade partners so far as China is concerned. For the United States, interestingly, the volume of ECO trade with United States is just about $45 billion. So relatively speaking, the trade exposure of the region to United States is less. And when it comes to Russian Federation, it is around $106 billion. So collectively, and that really, I would say, explains why we have not been able to do as well as we should have. And if I were to list some of the challenges, apart, I think it's really, historically speaking, all the Central Asian republics, their trade exposure and their trade orientation was more to their east and to Russia and to some countries of Europe. Whereas for Turkey and Pakistan, it was basically the European and the American markets. And also the fact that many of these economies were transition economies, mixed economies. At least 4 of our members are not even WTO members. So that also stood in the way of, and the practical challenge that we faced in negotiating the trade agreement was that the applied tariffs, for instance, for Turkey are already very low, whereas for Iran, they are, relatively speaking, high tariffs. So for a country that already has very low applied tariffs, has very little incentive to sit across the table to finalize a deal, because it will not actually result in tangible trade outcomes for a particular. So that also, and since these countries and systems had different trading systems, that also stood in the way of the rapid integration of the region, consistent with the political will that has been expressed, I would say, over the years in practically every summit. And also ASEAN. Our trade exposure to ASEAN is around $30 billion, whereas for India, it is around $15 billion. That is the collective. And then this pattern and the volumes of trade with Russia, with China, with India, and within the region certainly is growing. In terms of energy and minerals also, ECO is a energy-rich region. We literally, have both the net consumers of energy with large populations like Pakistan, and we have countries like Turkmenistan, which very sparse population and huge reservoirs of energy, and Azerbaijan. And that's where we are, in fact, I would say, as an organization, done well in terms of trying to create the regional energy market, in terms of helping countries to switch to circular economy approaches, because climate change vulnerabilities, if I were to tell you that practically any and every climate change related vulnerability that you can think of, you see that at play in our region, be it desertification, be it land degradation, be it water stress, be it glacial melt, be it droughts, be it floods, be it sandstorms. So really the whole range of climate change related challenges, and we are home to some of the most vulnerable. I'm coming from Tehran. As we speak, there is a very, very serious water shortage crisis we are seeing in Iran, in Tehran in particular. And then I come here to Pakistan and we are flooded with, unfortunately, water. And glacial melt is also a challenge because we are a region which is fed by the same source, the same set of glaciers on different sites, And that also calls for much closer coordination between the countries. But the biggest, I would say, priority for us has been the transport and communication integration, the regional connectivity, simply because of the 10 member states, while 3 are transit countries, 7 are landlocked countries. And they really are, I would say, very keen to the point of being almost desperate to explore ways in which they can connect with the rest of the world. And they certainly look to the transit countries for having that access. And when it comes to connectivity, what is really important is this whole of the government approach, because again, and that's also in some ways I would say explains our inability to basically work more effectively on trade integration also, because it's really the cost factor also. The cost of doing business is very high. The cost of transportation is very high because we don't have the economies of scale that we should or we can. And that's where we, even during this last summit, if I were to inventorize all the proposals that came from the heads of state, it was really the connectivity related proposals that dominated. Almost 80% of those proposals related to connectivity. And what I see and what I have experienced is that we really need to work on 3 movements: movement of goods, movement of people, and movement of capital. And somehow, when it comes to the movement of capital, we have faced challenges and difficulties because of the sanctions, and also to create infrastructure, connectivity, road infrastructure. It is capital intensive investments that involves attracting international finance, and that also has been unfortunately hampered because of the lack of integration of the financial systems in the region with the rest of the world, and also the existence of sanctions. And therefore, what happens is that you can even build state-of-the-art roads, but if there is no cargo, it will not really translate into the trade. Similarly, you can have goods, you can have trucks, you can have roads, but you cannot have trucks roll on the roads because there is no visa issue. There are no visas. So, and then what we have seen in our experience so far is that in the national systems, these issues are handled by different ministries. So connectivity is something which is handled by the transport ministers, but visas is something which is not. And therefore, ECO visa scheme has not been also fully operationalized because certain countries still have restrictive visa policies. And that in some ways impedes the free movement of goods. And I'll come to that also, but just to give you a sense of how important this whole connectivity issue is, from just listing the corridors that we have. And for us as ECO, the priority is to commercialize these corridors, to operationalize these corridors through commercialization, and then to adopt a comprehensive approach where we bring all the national stakeholders around the table to sort out the custom harmonization rules, the travel permit routes, the visa issuance questions, and then to do it in a seamless way, because border movement of goods is also and also aligning frameworks, because in some cases the gauge that we use in Pakistan or in Iran is different from the gauge which is being used in some of the other Central Asian republics. So that also hinders and hampers the free movement of goods. So just to give you, first of course Islamabad, Tehran, Istanbul, ITI railway corridor, then KTI railway corridor, which is Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Iran, then Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Afghanistan, Iran, KTI corridor, then Tutit corridor, which is Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Iran, and Turkey. And then there is Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Iran, and Turkey. So you can see there is this north-south connectivity corridor, then there are east-west connectivity corridor, then there is this central corridor. There are multiple corridors, and then really what we are working very hard is to, one, digitize and then bring in technology to help with reducing the cost of and then to have the trade facilitation strategy. We have been able to finalize our trade facilitation strategy. We are in the process of finalizing our trade facilitation agreement that we are confident will help address customs related challenges, transit related challenges. We are also embracing, some of our members have, Pakistan is an active user of the TIER convention, and that has also helped us develop systems that facilitate efficient movement of trucks across borders, And we are working very closely with the International Transport Union to achieve that. One area, if I may say so, that where we have actually done very well is the tourism sector. Just to give you a sense, 100 million people visited ECO region last year. And of these, 62 million alone visited Turkey, which is the fourth largest receiver of tourists in the world. And what is very impressive, and then the list goes on, Kazakhstan is the second with 11.5 million. Uzbekistan, 10.2 million. But what is significant about Turkey and Uzbekistan is that Uzbekistan moved from 2 million 10 years ago to 10 million. So they have literally increased their tourism traffic by 5 times, Turkey has doubled their tourist inflow over the last 10 years. In Iran, we have 7.3 million tourists coming, despite the challenges, the problems that they may have. The number really has also increased. In Pakistan, we have had around a little over 1 million tourists. What we are also seeing is that at least intra-regional flow is also increasing. So if we were to compare our intra-regional trade expansion volumes with our intra-regional tourism expansion volumes, I can tell you with some confidence that our tourism rate of expansion is definitely much higher than the trade expansion, and this is very promising. because we genuinely believe that we have to create this nexus between tourism, transport, and trade. We know from our experience, Vietnam was a tourist destination before it became an investment destination. Thailand was a tourist destination before it became an investment destination. And tourism also puts people, increases the comfort level. While we have enormous overlaps, I would say, as I said, in terms of, and more I travel, I have never served in this region before. More I travel, more I realize how much there is common in terms of our vocabulary, in terms of our habits, the kind of breads we eat, the kind of rice we cook, all of that, but somehow we really don't know anything about each other. I mean, Iran is our next door neighbor. Frankly, there are so many things that I did not know until I started traveling with Iran, and so is true with some of the other Central Asian countries. So tourism really is our window, and then once we create those flows, I'm sure we'll be able to translate that into transport, we'll be able to translate that into trade also. So that nexus is something, and our tourism capital initiative is an interesting initiative that has, this year it is Erzurum in Turkey, which is declared as the ECO tourism capital. Next year it will be Shusha, and then the following year in 2027 it will be Lahore. And we own that city for the whole year and then promote it as an ECO destination. Similarly, we are also working, and private sector engagement, frankly, is the key. Not just in the transport sector, but in the trade sector, exhibitions, trade fairs, all of that, because we also lack that. I mean, while we have a ECO Chamber of Commerce, but somehow we have not had as many trade exhibitions, because trade and networking opportunities is what would create interest in each other's businesses. So the potential and the desire is there, and then for us at the Secretariat, the job is to create more and more of those opportunities. Agriculture, really, I mean, food security is a challenge. And we have 4 institutions, ECO Seed Association, ECO Regional Coordination Center for Food Security, ECO Permanent Veterinary Commission, and then ECO Agricultural Biotechnology Network. Now, all these institutions really are designed to exchange best practices, to learn from each other. Iran has done very well. Turkey is doing pretty well. Pakistan has also done very good research, and then somehow we operate in silos, and then we are trying as ECO, trying to bring these institutions to collaborate and cooperate with each other. I think in terms of organizations, we are also seeing some certainly other organizations. SCO is one, where practically every ECO member state is represented. If not, they are members like Azerbaijan, Turkey, are partners, and Turkmenistan is an observer. But the rest are all members of the SCO, and we work very closely. Similarly, OTS also, the Organization of Turkic States. So within the region, I can say, and same is true for, although SICA is an open regional concept where countries from across the globe are joining, but immediate in our neighborhood, these are organizations that are in some ways, I would say, also competing for resources, competing for attention, and that's where we genuinely believe that we need to work closely with each other, and in ways that we are able to avoid duplication and overlap, in ways because we all draw from the same funding sources, and from the same governments. And then that's where this proliferation of regional organizations has to be, I would say, managed in a way that they are able to develop their own expertise and their own areas of speciality where they can basically deal with issues in a more efficient and a cost-effective way. Beyond that, now, for me, frankly, this is really the ECO moment, and that was in some ways captured by the 17th ECO summit in Khankendi, Azerbaijan. If you look at the summit, first of all, the fact that despite uncertainties in the region, particularly because of the aggression against Islamic Republic of Iran, which was just about 2 weeks before the summit, we were frankly apprehensive that we may not have the participation from all the member states, from the heads of state. But I must say that we not only got the highest level attendance from almost all the member states, but most importantly, President of Iran actually participated in the summit, which really, although they had at least a very, very plausible explanation and excuse not to participate, but he chose to participate, which really, I would say, was a very good indication of Iran's desire to strengthen its relations with the immediate neighbors, and to use ECO as the vehicle for deepening regional collaboration. And not only that, I must also say that we are very grateful to the President of Azerbaijan, who from day one that we had our basic coordination meeting, decided to take full ownership of the process and enthusiastically participated in the planning and execution of all preparations of the summit. So it was in a way a landmark summit, because in the past, we would have mostly a one-day event where leaders would come and then they deliver their statements and then leave. But this time around, we had a full ECO week. And what was important this time was that because this is the time of developing the new vision. Ambassador Suhail Mahmood spoke of, we had our Vision 2025, which was also finalized here in Islamabad. We have achieved some of it, unfortunately, some of it we have not. But this time, and so far, the conversations were kept limited to the governmental channels, and somehow we did not expand the scope of our conversations to include all the stakeholders. So this time around, we had a youth forum, we had a women forum, we had all the ECO family institutions come and represented, because that's also very, very important to create that family feeling for each institution to hear from each other, and then to be able to effectively contribute to the work. And so these, and then we also had the 6th Business Forum, where we were able to create that networking opportunity that I was referring to earlier, for the businesses to come. And in all of this, the government of Azerbaijan, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Azerbaijan participated very actively, supported the Secretariat and the member states, provided outstanding hospitality. And what we have is now, I would say, a very high benchmark in terms of setting a new standard for the summits, and we are certainly looking forward to Iran, which will be hosting the 18th summit, inshallah, in another year or two, to have that reflected and made a standard. But the leaders, some of the key points that the leadership made was really, as I said, the strategic role of East-West and North-South transport and energy corridors. So they really, and this is an emphasis that we heard from practically every leader. And then the engagement of the private sector and deepening people-to-people connections, particularly by working on the tourism window. Environment degradation, I think this was also a very loud and clear message. This was because Azerbaijan was the host of COP29, so throughout the summit, environment, climate change occupied also a very important position. So we heard our leaders speak about the region coming together to overcome and tackle the climate change and environmental related challenges. But what was really important was to provide guidance in terms of developing the new vision and making the new vision a result-driven, project-based approach with modernization of the institutional structures and strengthening of the secretariat. With very really transport benchmarks, KPIs to be set. So this is something that we are right now working in developing, and multi-stakeholder consultations in every capital are taking place, and we are waiting to get that feedback, and hopefully by November, before our 29th Council of Ministers meeting, we will be able to finalize this new vision, which will be result-oriented, which will be implementable, and which will be realistic, I would say, also, so that we keep our level of ambition low, consolidate what we have, and implement what we have agreed on. I think I'll stop here for now, and really look forward to, because I know there were some very well-informed senior colleagues who know ECO perhaps even better than I do, and also others who may have things to say and comment on, and questions. I have not touched upon the geopolitical dynamic. I'll leave that for the question and answer in terms of how the current developments actually provide us an opportunity to start looking even more keenly within the region to look for trade, investment, and other opportunities. I'll stop here, and I once again thank all of you for your patience.
Thank you, Ambassador Dr. Asad Majid Khan, for your very elaborative and insightful talk on the organizational structure, but also highlighting the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead for the member state countries. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll have a short interactive discussion. The interactive discussion will be moderated by Ambassador Sohail Mahmood, Director General ISSI. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you so much. Let me begin by thanking Ambassador Asad Majid Khan for a very comprehensive expose, and I'm sure you would agree that this was nothing less than a crash course in ECO's evolution over the past 60 years, counting the RCD years as well. So there would be definitely many reactions and comments, observations, and questions also. We would not have more than 25 minutes for the Q&A session, so I will request the participants to just briefly introduce themselves and then keep their comments or questions also very brief and precise. So the floor is open. Yes, Hassan.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Khan. My name is Hassan Gilani. I'm working with Pakistan Television. In the recent months, we have seen that several members of the ECO have directly or indirectly faced violent conflicts with one of the member states seeing perpetual state of instability. How has that environment of hostility or antagonism sort of overshadowed or eclipsed that environment of cooperation amongst the ECO states?
What we'll do is we'll take a set of questions and comments, and Mrs. Aisha Khan.
Thank you, Ambassador Asad Majid, for a very detailed talk and for sharing the evolution of the history of ECO. So I'm sort of intrigued to know that an organization that has been in existence for 60 years has not achieved the objectives that it had set for itself. Clearly, there are reasons why it could not be as successful as EU, for example, or ASEAN. So what makes you think now that in the next 10 or 20 years, what is it that's going to change, that's going to make it into the kind of organization that you have shared the vision with us? And also, if you can tell me a little bit more about the challenges that you said. Was it a lack of political will? You have talked about infrastructure, you've talked about transportation, but clearly when you see a potential, economic potential, then you address these issues. So they were not addressed for 60 years. What is the actual trade potential that you see, and how much in your future vision are you going to set concrete goals and targets to say so much volume increase in trade, improvement in transportation, so we can at least track it and see what progress you're making against the goals you're setting for yourself. Secondly, you talked about climate change yourself, and you said it's a cross-cutting theme. It will affect everyone. So again, the year of glacier preservation was declared. So I am interested to know what concrete steps will be taken to address those challenges in the third pole, to address the issues of glacial retreat beyond talk and rhetorical statements that we need to come together, we need to work together, but we actually don't see much happening either on the economic front or on the environmental front. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, please. Ms. Saira.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. So my simple question is that, in your view, what role ECO can play to resolve strategic and border-related issues between the ECO member states, and particularly between the border issues we face with Iran? Thank you.
Why don't you go ahead?
Yes, I think I will. I think, Gilan Sahab, the conflict and instability, I would say, has actually reinforced the desire for the region to even more actively look inwards than outwards. And that's at play, I must say, particularly in the context of Iran. You can very clearly see Iran seeking to engage with the region. Iran wanting to work with all the immediate neighbors that they have. You can also see that at play very much in Azerbaijan also. For Azerbaijan to be very keen in building infrastructure connectivity, in seeking trade integration. So I really think that these developments and with the outer rim getting more and more conflicted and more unstable has, in my view, further strengthened the desire of the countries, because contiguity, frankly, is a huge asset. And whatever may happen with the trade lanes, whatever may happen with the sea lanes, whatever may happen with how you trade with distant trading partners. Your immediate neighbors, if you have created those trade-related overlaps, and you have created those investment flow opportunities, will certainly help in situations where you don't need to look away, or you don't need to work with countries outside. So in my view, and that's why I see that there is a moment of opportunity, because we are very clearly seeing the weaponization of financial system. We are seeing the weaponization of trading system also. And all of that is further and then the trading patterns that I shared with you, we are clearly seeing increase in number in trade within the region inside ECO. I personally think that if we are able to seize this opportunity I think, and I link it to one part of Mrs. Khan's question of the political will. I think political will definitely is there. And I have gone out to meet leaders across the region. I have had the honor and pleasure of meeting every single prime minister and president almost so far. And I have very clearly heard a personal commitment from them also. But somehow, because of I give you, and I'll really like to come and address this question, because this is a question that is often addressed. That, in fact, I don't want to name the country, but the president of a country in my first interaction asked me that, you have been there for so long, why have you not done anything? And so, and I've been really reflecting on that where really is the problem, and I'll tell you a couple of things. We came together to promote trade. And you know how many trade ministerial meetings we have had? Just 4. So if we were to count ECO from 1985, in 40 years, we had just 1 meeting every 10 years. And when was the last time that our interior ministers met? It was 16 years ago. When was the last time that our environment ministers met? 12 years ago. And this is despite the fact that our leaders are meeting every other year. Our foreign ministers are meeting regularly every year. So where is really and I'll tell you where the disconnect is. The disconnect, and I say this as a foreign service officer, because ECO is an economic cooperation organization. And the way it was conceived, and that's not just Pakistan, that's for all the ECO members. And I'm being as candid as you can be, because they are being led by the ministries of foreign affairs. But the challenge is that the development work is not done by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It is done by the ministers of commerce, it is done by the ministers of finance, it is done by the so-called 9 ministries. And with the result that while we come up with these very high-sounding statements, they do not translate into actions because the finance ministers or the commerce ministers are not on board. And so that's what we are trying to set right. And I must say, I'm very happy to report to you that we have already, and the other problem was, because for a ministerial meeting, in all fairness, you really need to give at least 6 months lead time for the secretariat to prepare and for the country to prepare and to work on substantive agenda for those meetings. And I'll give you one example. The trade ministerial meeting. This was supposed to happen on 25th of June. And we announced that meeting with the help of Minister Bolat from Turkey, who was personally very much interested and keen. About 7 months ago, we locked the date, we announced the meeting. And in those 6-7 months, what we achieved was we finalized the trade facilitation strategy, which was pending for God knows 20 years. We finalized the customs harmonization agreement, which was pending for another 10 years. We got the agreement here in Islamabad at the 9th Commerce Council Ministers meeting to basically restart the negotiations for ACOTA to bring it, closer to the realities on the ground. we were able to agree on the memorandum on trade promotion organizations cooperation between the members. So there were 5 agreements that we were able to finalize in the lead up to the meeting, for the simple reason that when I, as foreign secretary, knows that my foreign minister is going to be going to go to this meeting in 6 months' time, and we are supposed to basically contribute to the success of this meeting and contribute our national positions to those meetings. People start preparing, the systems start preparing, the bureaucracies start preparing. So what we are now doing, we have, but unfortunately because of developments in Iran, we had to postpone that meeting at the last moment. Now this will be happening in November. So that's first thing. I am very actively working on environment ministers meeting. This was in 2014, 11 years ago we had last meeting. We only had one virtual meeting in Sharm el-Sheikh. And with the result that we want them to announce, because the leaders want us to work on environment. We have our draft framework agreement that is finalized and lying pending approval of the ministers that we have not been able to convene. So that's, we have agreed and announced the dates for the meeting of the interior ministers after 16 years. We have got in principle agreement from the Tajik government to basically have the industries minister meeting after 19 years. And they have already announced the date. We will be having the agriculture ministers. So what I'm trying to tell you is that it's not the question of political will. The leadership really, I think, is keen. They also see the opportunity, the imperative of working together. But what happens in reality is that somehow the bureaucracies don't come together. And there is another disconnect also, so that now that we are talking. And what is also unique about our organization is that the chair for the summit is with one country, the chair for the council is with another country. And we all know, we've been in multilateral systems and international organizations. When the summit convening country is not the chair of the council where the decisions are taken, they both, because lose interest, The council chair is not interested in the success of the summit. The summit document is mostly the chair's summary, it's not a negotiated document. So that has also, I would say, so we have finally, in principle, agreed. Now it's just a question of basically deciding how and who will basically give up their right to host but we will have one chair for 2 years. And that chair will host 2 Council of Ministers meetings and 1 summit. And that will help retain the whole process in one set of hands, and they will take ownership. The success of those 2 years will be their credit, and any failures will be their discredit. So that has also, so the convening of ministerial meeting. The third is the financing challenge, frankly. It's sanctions, we have an impact. They have impacted our capacity to attract finance for our connectivity projects. They have basically impacted our ability to provide the resources that the ECO Trade and Development Bank would need to become more operational and active. So that's another challenge, I would say. And unfortunately, we are seeing a proliferation of those, not just in the context of our region, but also in the broader region. And that's, again, also something which is, I would say, encouraging countries to start looking more and more inwards. And border, your question was about?
Iran,
ECO can ECO play to
okay. Now, frankly, and that's also an area. ECO is an organization which is exclusively, primarily focused on economic issues, and we do not get involved in political conflicts, in territorial conflicts. We feel that a peaceful environment is necessary for development cooperation, for growth and prosperity, and to that extent we continue to focus on providing enabling environment. But in terms of, and if you look at our declarations that come out from the Council of Ministers meetings also, which are negotiated documents, you would not find references to political conflicts between countries that we do not get ourselves involved, except where the territorial integrity or sovereignty of one of the member states has been. We have been issuing those statements, but to the extent of issuing statements it is, but active engagement is not either encouraged or is not practiced. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Talking about the lack of progress, I remember myself being director ECO when Pakistan hosted the summit in 1995 of the expanded ECO, the first in Islamabad. And I remember the decision to establish the reinsurance company taken at that summit. And if I heard correctly, the Secretary General mentioned today that we are still in the process of establishing one. So this says a lot, but I think the steps that have been highlighted and identified by the Secretary General to address some of these lacunas would probably be helpful in practical implementation of the decisions that are taken from time to time. Yes, the floor is open. Who else wants to go? Yes, please.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. I'm Lala Roh, Director, ECO Postal Staff College, sir. Thank you very much. It was a very engaging, very informative discourse, sir. Sir, you've mentioned ECO's role in a lot of key agendas, trade, tourism. Thank you for that also, sir. I would like it if you would throw some light on any of your plans or agendas for trainings and exchange programs between the member countries, because we became an affiliated body in 2013. And since 2013, between 2013 and 2018, we had a few training courses and programs here, but since then there's been a halt. And obviously being the director there right now, I would want to revive such exchange programs, which are the need of the hour also, sir. So could you please highlight that? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Please.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. My name is Adnan Hamid. I have two short questions from you. Sir, how can Pakistan leverage its partnership with China's CPEC, Turkey and Central Asia while maintaining balance in relationship with West? And second question is, what policies are being considered to integrate Pakistan's Gwadar port into the broader ECO connectivity framework? Thank you.
This is our second and last round, so if anybody wishes to ask question or make comment, this is the opportunity. Yes, please. Mic ले लें जरा.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. My name is Shahzad Ahmed Khan and fresh practitioner in law. Sir, I have a question that Sir Sohail Mahmood Sahab defined the way forwards to deepen the cooperation of ECO. But for deepen the cooperation of organization, there should be must security resolve problems. So we have a dispute with Afghan border. So I have a question that what logical or important measures have been taken till today, and what the result, what are the outcomes? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. If you allow our distinguished speaker, one question I would also address to you, because we need to justify the word geopolitical dynamics in the title of the talk also. And that is, you mentioned one about the increased economic engagement of China with the ECO region. And we also know that Central Asia is particularly a place where there are several major powers very actively engaged in various ways. So how is the geopolitics and geoeconomics interacting there? And how are the ECO member states navigating both major power competition and also their own competing interests in the light of what goes on?
Yes, yeah, is that all? This is actually, and this is linked with your question also about this balance that countries are at least striving to achieve in their relationships. And obviously balance is a very relative term because if a relationship on one side is 20 kilograms and then the other relationship is just 250 grams, there's no way that you can balance. But how exactly do we basically manage the relationship is what we should be looking at. And that challenge is there, I think, for all professional diplomatic cadres around the world in today's world, where we are seeing more and more polarization, a desire to revert or return to some sort of some kind of hard alliances is at play. So we have to see. And in the Central Asia, I think, as Ambassador Suhail Mahmood mentioned, and it's not just a question of balancing between one set of players and the other set of players. It's not just, so for instance, Kazakhstan balancing with the European Union and United States. They also have to balance it with Russia. And they also have to balance it with China. And if you look at their trade volumes, and I think that's where the question of balance comes in. The political relationships have their own dynamic, and they have their own priorities, and that's where the strategic part of the relation. But there is nothing that stops countries from balancing their books and balancing their trade. And I think that's where we need to learn even from Central Asia, I would say. If you look at the processes at play, I think this region is one region where they have practically C5+1 with every important country and geographic configuration of the world. They have Central Asia +1 with Japan, they have Central Asia +1 with India, they have Central Asia +1 with US, they have Central Asia +1 with the European Union, and then of course they are all part of CIS also, and over there also they very closely coordinate. You look at their trade volumes with China, the number is increasing. China is fast becoming, if not their number one, it is one of the 2 or 3 top trading partners. Even in terms of connectivity, we are seeing China becoming more and more active. In fact, the countries of the region seeking partnerships, particularly the one through Kyrgyz Republic, so those corridors are also at play. So in that way, the geopolitics and if a region, and that's where I feel that if we as an ECO region can present ourselves as a coherent, integrated region, and if we look at the numbers that we have, plus with the support of the contiguity that we enjoy, it will only increase our negotiating space vis-a-vis the other bigger players around the world, actually. So that's why I say that maybe we should replicate the Central Asia example to also include Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Turkey and Iran, to basically depoliticize our at least economic relations to the extent that we can, and then diversify our trade as far as we can. China is, but coming back to the Afghanistan question, my dear, as I said, I mean, for us, Afghanistan is a very, very important a member of the organization. We have had the Afghanistan advocacy program, which was suspended at the ministerial level. So far, we are following the lead from the UN and other international organizations in terms of fully normalizing our engagements with Afghanistan. But of course, we had the Deputy Prime Minister of Afghanistan attend the 17th summit, which was important at the invitation of Azerbaijan. And they contributed to the discussion over there also. And after due authorization from the Council of Permanent Representatives, we are engaging with them at the expert level on a daily basis. We have increased that engagement also up to the Deputy Secretary General level, and we certainly are looking to a time and a day when, of course, with the concurrence of the member states, we will have them back as full contributing members. And we feel that by being part of the family of ECO, the disputes, conflicts, and misunderstandings, obviously we leave it for the countries to resolve it bilaterally. But the summits and what you do on the margins of the summit and the engagement opportunities that it creates, in some ways also help to address those challenges that you were alluding to. But as an organization and as an entity, we really don't engage in addressing, the territorial or other disputes. Oh, yes. Postal call, yes. That's another, because, and this is a challenge that I, as Secretary General, am trying to address. Because if I look at my budget, almost 99% of the budget goes to the so-called non-program expenses of the organization. And so there is very little that is left for covering the program part of it, and we have, and then there is also this challenge. So we are actually trying to encourage countries to contribute more voluntarily. We are also encouraging countries to make those so-called extra budgetary contributions by hosting some of these trainings also. And I had heard from you and the outreach from, yes, we were doing that, and we are certainly looking at ways in which, but in terms of process, really how it works is that this proposal has to come from the RPC, in the RPC through the representative of Pakistan, which in our case here in Islamabad is the Planning Commission, So the representative of Planning Commission has to bring that as Pakistan's proposal to the RPC meeting, where then we decide, and if it is put on the calendar, it then makes it easier for us to then, pitch it to the member states to secure their funding. But if it doesn't come from them, then on our own, it is difficult for the Secretariat to be pushing for one or the other training program. But of course, trainings are important. We do a number of trainings, but most of those trainings are those that are actually organized through the RPC process.
Well, thank you so much.
Oh yes, but the China, the Gawada, as I said, there is a hunger for exploring every possibility of connection. And corridors are not mutually exclusive, and they are not a substitute or replacement for the other. And therefore, our approach to this within the organization, there are portions of the ITI corridor from Taftan to Zaidan are still not complete, And once that connectivity with Pakistan is established, whatever happens within the Pakistani border is something that is for the Pakistani government to decide. But when it comes to basically operationalizing and commercializing the corridors up to our border points, and we have done that, this Uzbekistan, Afghanistan, we have done it trilaterally, we have done it bilaterally. So similarly, Gwadar is as important a port. And as I said, that if we don't create those conditions that would help integrate Gwadar with the rest of the system, the connectivity, hunger, and desire is there. And it will then translate into alternatives that may not involve Gwadar. So it's really, at the end of the day, up to us to create those opportunities once within our border.
Mrs. Aisha Khan wants to.
How much is the total volume of trade potential? How much is being actualized? And since you said that all these countries are now members of SCO, will that make ECO redundant?
I hope not. Because SCO is entered into this mainly through the security and counterterrorism window. We entered into this through the development and economic window, So I think we have a comparative advantage. But of course, being bigger economies, being larger economies, they are gradually evolving into, I think, and their economic agenda is also developing. And I will be going to the SCO summit in Tianjin later this month. And our effort, and we invite them also to our engagements. I have interacted with the Secretary General of SCO several times. So we are really looking at ways in which we can actually explore, as I said, do it in a way that we are able to avoid duplication and overlap and allow connectivity is our area of expertise, I would say, and we have historically worked on this. It's just the question of our ability to access funding, And then that's where we can, and I'll be, of course, in Beijing, I'll be also seeking bilateral meetings with the Chinese authorities also. So the idea really is to engage everyone and whosoever we can to further our, and we don't see it as a zero sum, but yes, potentially there could be competition and we'll have to do better to stay and survive actually.
Competition is tough to avoid redundancy also. Well,
Just one, and then in terms of the volumes of trade, right now it's about $1 trillion and $60 billion, but certainly the potential is more, because the issue is that if you look at the breakup of the exports, they are mostly in primary products. And if this main European Union trade of 300 plus billion, and most of the ECO exports are in the energy sector. So that's, and industrial collaboration, frankly, has lagged. And that's what we are, because there are capacities. I have seen and experienced scientific advancement and industrial self-reliance in Iran, which is frankly very, very surprising. Turkey has done very well in so many areas. Similarly, Central Asian republics, particularly Kazakhstan. Azerbaijan is doing remarkable work in climate change, and they have just set up this clean energy center. So really, we are trying to basically, I think we should explore each other's potential, learn from each other's capacities, and that's why I say that it's really, there is a huge information deficit about each other in the region, and that's, if we are able to bridge that gap, I think half of the job is done, because the economic justification of what we want to do, and then we are also rich in minerals, all kinds of minerals. And if we can create those frameworks, we will be working for the advantage of each other. Thank you.
You have critical minerals also?
Minerals are critical.
Minerals are. Well, dear guests, we have amongst us a very distinguished diplomat of Pakistan who during his illustrious career also at different stages dealt with the ECO. So Ambassador Inamul Haq Saab. So may I ask, sir, if you would wish to share anything from your own experience or any advice that you would wish to give for the organization? We have all ears of the Secretary General today.
Thank you, Suhail. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. You referred to the 1995 summit. I came from Turkey to attend that summit. And there was also a decision to establish the Trade and Development Bank at that summit. And the most reluctant country for the establishment of that bank was Turkey itself. Although we had already had an agreement on the bank, I recall that some of our friends from Turkey said there had been no agreement. Then we produced a copy of the agreement. Then they didn't want to discuss it. But eventually, most reluctantly, they agreed, although the bank was to be headquartered in Turkey itself. So when Asad says that there's a lot of political will, but bureaucracy stops the development of ECO, I would like to differ with them. There has not been sufficient political will to strengthen ECO. It is not bureaucracy which stops the progress of an organization. It is the interest that the political leadership takes in a particular organization. Now, in this particular organization, let's be quite clear. The countries which are members of this organization do not carry much political weight and heft in world affairs. And as such, none of the member countries individually is very keen to strengthen this organization. They deal with their bilateral relationships with major countries separately from ECO. The second point that I would like to make is that we often confuse, and in Pakistan we have a habit of trying to overload organizations. In the questions that were asked here about border settlements to be done by ECO. ECO is an economic cooperation organization. It does not deal with political issues. As such, it has no role in settling bilateral border issues between different countries. There was also a question by a gentleman regarding a border dispute between Afghanistan and Pakistan. There is no border dispute between Afghanistan and Pakistan. The Durand Line had existed since 1893. It has been thrice ratified by Afghanistan, and it is recognized as an international border. So as a Pakistani, you should not be suggesting that there is a border dispute between Afghanistan and Pakistan. The border is a settled border. Now, bilateral border disputes between Iran and Pakistan do not exist. There is a difference. There are differences about crossings of borders by different terrorist organizations. There is no border dispute between Iran and Pakistan, so we should choose our words carefully also. Let's not create differences and disputes where there are none. Let me also say that Aisha made a reference to glacial melts. I think none of the Central Asian countries is interested in ECO doing anything much about glacial melt because they are not impacted by it. Countries will do, even for climate change, only what they see is in their national interest. And particularly developing countries want to see where they can get assistance and aid to fight off climate change. We have not really, even in Pakistan, instituted any programs which conserve our own resources, promote our own technical skills to try to protect our own climate. In fact, we are determined to destroy our climate. Our timber mafia is deforesting our country at a very rapid rate. We talk of planting more trees. In fact, we are cutting many more trees than we are planting. And when we say that we planted 1 billion trees in a particular area, that is not simply true. Most of the money is taken away and pocketed by politicians or bureaucrats which are involved in such schemes. So unless we set our own houses in order and then agree that developing countries have to look towards each other in the context of economic as well as political organizations, they have to support each other against the depredations of the West, which have been going on for centuries. I suspect we will neither be able to change our economic situation nor our political standing in the world. So let's start thinking seriously about what we are doing to ourselves and how do we get out of it. If we do not do that, nobody in the world is going to save you. If the glaciers melt, water is not going to come from the heavens. Even the floods and rains that we have in the monsoon season come from the evaporation of waters from the seas and the melt of the glaciers. If there are no glaciers, there will be no drinking water. And desertification in this part will increase while we go merrily along increasing our population, which is expected to raise to 350 million people by the year 2050 or so. How are we going to provide water for them? We are one of the most water-stressed countries in the world, amongst the 10 countries which have the least water per capita. And it is going to go down because the population is going to increase and water resources are going to remain the same. So let us see what we can do ourselves. Manna is not going to fall from heaven again. God has stated very clearly in the Holy Quran that I do not change the state of nations or peoples unless they change themselves. And we have to change ourselves before we begin to look at other organizations, other countries for supporting us and helping us. Let's try to become a country which can help others instead of going with a beggar's bowl all over the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Very clear message. And I think I would request you for another round of applause for our distinguished Secretary General, who certainly added to our understanding and insights about the ECO and its role in the region and internationally. So I hand it back to Ms. Neelam.
Thank you. Thank you. I now request Ambassador Khalid Mahmood, Chairman BOG ISSI, for his word of thanks, which will be followed by a group photo and prize distribution, the souvenirs distribution to our chief guest.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable former Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Ambassador Inamul Haq, Director General ISSI, Ambassador Suhail Mahmood, and the distinguished speaker, Ambassador Asad Majid Khan, Secretary General, ECO. It was really such a pleasure hosting you, sir, and benefiting from your experience, 1 year experience working as Secretary General, ECO. It has stirred, in fact, nostalgic feelings in me because I had the honor of being permanent representative of Pakistan to ECO for 3 years and also subsequently member of the group of distinguished eminent persons group. I recall my stay in Tehran and that it coincided with the Secretary Generalship of ECO by Ambassador Shamshad Ahmad Khan. And last night I was browsing through his book, which he has just written as witness to the history. And I saw that as Secretary General, he did a lot of work, He was supported by no less than Ambassador Azaz Ahmad Chaudhry, another who became Foreign Secretary later on. And they both worked very hard to institutionalize this institution, ECO, by establishing various bodies, having outreach with other institutions, other organizations, getting observer status at the UN, General Assembly, and so on, So from what one gathers is that the legal framework, the vision, the various bodies to follow up, all have been now established. It is only how to implement the various decisions which are made through these institutions. And I think this is a very ripe, as you said, ECO moment now. That the Vision 2025 is over, so we can now analyze how to improve upon that vision and remove the hurdles in our way. So vision, now ECO is busy in crafting Vision 2026 to 2035. And I don't see why ECO should not be an effective organization. Because for any regional organizations, all the enabling environment is there. We have geographical contiguity, we have common religion, common culture among the ECO countries. No major international dispute among us, and there is complementarity also. We are producers, some members are producers of energy, others are those who need energy. There are some countries which are industrialized, others are not. So there is complementarity here, but pitifully, not much has happened on the ground, So we hope that in the forthcoming now summit in Tehran, 2027, by that time the ECO under your able leadership would have drawn the future course of action and what practical measures we need to take to realize those objectives. So it has been really very fruitful conversation we had, and I'm quite optimistic that ECO has a future. You talked of SCO, but that is a political security body. And in any case, we need to develop synergies among all these various regional organizations, because regionalism is an enduring feature of international interaction. Regionalism was there even before the League of Nations or United Nations were established, Organization of American States. And there is a provision in the Covenant of the League of Nations, Charter of the United Nations, all emphasizing the role which regionalism can play. So thank you, sir, for participation by all the others.
Thank you.
Veterans of ISSI.
Thank you, sir. I now request Ambassador Khalid Mahmood, Chairman BOG, to kindly present the Institute souvenir to our distinguished guest speaker, Ambassador Asad Majid Khan.